Saint Catherine of Siena, a Dominican sister, is the patroness of the sisters' congregation. She was born in Italy in the 14th century and lived from 1347 to 1380. Because of a schism in the Catholic Church, the Pope had relocated to Avignon in France. St. Catherine's special mission was to inspire Pope Gregory XI to return to his rightful place in Rome. And this was the foundress of the congregation, from whence the sisters came, Marie-Thérèse Josephine Grant, who lived from 1819 to 1907. She was also known as Mother Dominic of the Cross. It was the disease of leprosy which first brought the sisters to Trinidad. In 1813, a few cases had been discovered, and the disease spread. In 1845, the leprosarium was established at Cocorite, but the employees must have performed their task with little enthusiasm, resulting in the less than satisfactory care of the patients. So much so that when in 1866 the new British governor, Arthur Hamilton Gordon, visited the institution and saw the pitiful condition of the lepers, as they were then called, he had this to say: "I have always thought that to cure such ills of soul as well as body, something more is needed than paid-for devotion. To my mind it seemed that it required Christian charity, the charity which sees above all in the sick and the poor the living members of our Lord Jesus Christ."
I found it was admirable on his part to see the situation in such a manner. It is true, this is the work that the sisters are doing, and they're doing it for not making money. They are doing it for what Jesus asked: treat others as you would like them to treat you. So this is what the governor had in mind, I'm sure.
It's recorded that the governor asked the Archbishop of Port of Spain for assistance in obtaining help from religious sisters. Archbishop Louis Gonard contacted the master of the Dominican order in Rome, who knew Mother Dominic of the Cross. He put the request to her. She accepted and sent some of her daughters in the congregation. They arrived in Trinidad in March 1868 and began work at the Cocorite Leprosarium.
When the sisters arrived, there were 60 patients in what they call the Cocorite Asylum, and 7 staff members. But these poor patients were very much left to themselves. They had to dress their own wounds. So the governor wanted the sisters to reorganize the place. And one of them wrote in their diaries, they said there was dirt everywhere. So the great task was to clean and to organize. And this is what they did. Their living quarters were deplorable. They put them on the top of a so-called pharmacy, and the boards, some parts of the boards were rotten, so they had to be extremely careful wherever they walk. So it was very, very difficult at the beginning, yes.
Persons with the disease were shunned for fear of infection. Their appearance and smell alone were enough to drive away even the most kind-hearted. Yet the sisters began this most unenviable task. This required a different caliber of person, someone imbued with extraordinary courage.
It is out of love for Jesus and for his sick brothers and sisters that our sisters came to Cocorite to do this work of mercy. It was a heroic work, but they did it out of this high motivation.
1 year after their arrival, however, disaster struck. In 1869, there was a yellow fever epidemic, and 9 out of 15 sisters succumbed. Taken away in the flower of their youth, the poor sisters were not able to achieve their goal of selfless service. Their names appear at the top of this monument in La Perouse Cemetery.
Within 2 months, 9 sisters died, sometimes 2 a day. It was something very terrible. But they were, in a way, predisposed to succumb to this epidemic because they used to wear heavy clothing. They used to have probably a very poor diet, and the swampy conditions of the place, very unsanitary, also predisposed them to get the sickness and to die of it.
But the sisters persevered. More arrived from France, and how well they performed after that initial setback. In fact, so well that in September of 1911, a Dr. Ferdinand de Vertaille was moved to write this glowing testimony. I have seen these ladies day after day, without a word of complaint, with cheerful, smiling countenances, dressing fetid ulcers, fleshy stumps, remains of what were once hands and feet, work from which even the most stout-hearted would recoil in horror. They carry out their work so quickly and unostentatiously that apart from the yearly reports of the medical superintendent, little is heard of their doings, even in the very island in which they labor. They shun all publicity, are reluctant to an extreme degree of allowing anything to be said or published in praise of their glorious, I should say, divine mission. One of the sisters who stands out for her extraordinary capability, zeal, and devotedness is Mother Thomas Negay. She was the matron at Cocorite.
She was a great woman indeed. She was highly respected and admired by the patients, the staff, everybody. She was matron for over 40 years, and she was a great organizer. You know, this sister, she spent 55 years in Trinidad, and she never went back, not even once, to her motherland.
In 1926, the leprosarium, now called a Hansenian settlement, was relocated to the island of Shaka Shakari. The move was precipitated by the alarming news from Norway that leprosy was a very contagious disease.
In 1915, there was an international medical conference in Norway. At the end of it, it was declared that leprosy was highly contagious. Well, it took some time for the news to reach Trinidad. But when the news reached, there was an outcry in the population, get rid of the lepers, send them down to some island. So the British authorities say, all right, we'll do something. So they gave an order of eviction to the people who were living on Shaka Chakari, because Shaka Chakari was the island that was designated. And so the people had to leave the Shaka Chakari within a few months. And that was in 1921, and in 1922, they started construction of what they call a Hansenian settlement. They eradicate this name leprosy, and they call the name Hansen from the medical doctor, Dr. Gerard Hansen, who discovered the bacillus in 1874. So now it was Hansenian settlement. It took 4 years to build this settlement. At the end of it, the patients had to be transferred. But the authorities did not want to impose that on the sisters because it was a banishment. But the sisters said, where our patients have gone, we will go. And so in 1926, they followed their dear patients to Shaka Chakari.